Rain hammered the metal roof of the small auto repair shop like an angry drum, drowning the silence that usually settled there at night. A lone bulb flickered above the workbench, casting soft yellow light across the stained concrete floor. It was well past closing time, yet Daniel Hale, 35, tired eyes, calloused hands, was still hunched under the hood of a rusted sedan, working as if the night didn't matter. For him, it didn't. His life had stopped belonging to him the day his wife died 7 years ago, leaving him with a 3-year-old daughter and no time to figure out how grief worked. Since then, everything he did, every job, every repair, every breath, was for Lily. He wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his wrist, smearing grease across his skin. He'd promised himself he'd fix 3 cars before midnight so he could pay the rent tomorrow. The landlord wasn't cruel, but bills didn't care about kindness. He tightened the last bolt, leaned back, and let the engine purr. 1 down, 2 to go. Then he heard it, a soft knocking on the garage door. At this hour, Daniel froze. Customers never came this late. Behind him, the clock blinked 11:47 p.m. The knocking came again, a gentler rhythm this time, almost apologetic. He walked to the door, wiping his hands on a rag. When he lifted the metal shutter halfway, chilled night air washed over him. A woman stood there, holding a jacket over her head to shield herself from the rain. Her hair clung to her cheeks, her breath trembled with cold. Behind her, a black SUV sat lopsided on one side, flat tire, maybe more. "Sorry," she said, her voice tight with embarrassment. "I know it's late, but, is there any way you could help? My car just died on the way back from the courthouse. I'm completely stranded." Court, he thought. Maybe she was a lawyer. The city courthouse was less than a mile away. Daniel stepped aside. "Bring it in. Let me take a look." She gave a relieved exhale and jogged back through the rain. Daniel pressed the button, lifting the shutter fully as she guided the heavy SUV inside. When he saw the state of the vehicle, his brows rose. "Looks like more than a dead battery," he muttered. The faint burnt smell rising from the hood told him everything he needed to know. She stood beside him, wringing rainwater from her sleeves. "I heard a loud pop on the highway, then the car started shaking." "Probably the alternator," Daniel said. "Maybe the serpentine belt too." Her shoulders slumped, and she whispered something under her breath that sounded like a prayer mixed with a curse. Daniel glanced at her, unsure whether to ask anything more, but he saw something in her eyes. Not fear, exactly, not exhaustion, either, something deeper, something she was struggling not to show. He had seen that look before. He saw it every night in his bathroom mirror. "Have a seat inside," he said gently, nodding toward the small office. "It's warmer there. I'll take a look." "Thank you," she whispered, relief filling her voice. While the woman stepped into the office, Daniel popped the hood. Steam hissed out, and he shook his head. This wasn't just a simple repair, it was a mess. Something that could cost hundreds of dollars and hours of labor. He grabbed his tools and got to work. Inside the small office, the woman sank onto the worn leather chair, rubbing her trembling fingers together. She could feel the weight pressing on her chest again. She had endured hearings all day, custody disputes, eviction cases, and a heartbreaking child abuse trial, but nothing prepared her for being stranded on a stormy night with no one to call. She checked her phone. Dead. Just perfect. When the door opened, she straightened, trying not to look as fragile as she felt. "You, all right in here?" Daniel asked, stepping in to grab a flashlight. "Yes, thank you. Sorry for ruining your night." "It's not ruined," he said with a small smile. "Just another shift." She watched him carefully. His clothes were old, boots worn, hair a little messy, but there was a steadiness in him that radiated warmth. A man carrying the strain of the world but refusing to bend. "What's your name?" she asked. "Daniel. I'm Emily," she replied with a soft nod. "Emily Carter." He nodded once and returned to the garage. For 30 minutes, she listened to the sounds of tools clinking, the low hum of the engine trying to catch life, and the occasional sigh from Daniel as he worked relentlessly. Outside, thunder cracked across the sky. She had judged dozens of mechanics in court, the good and the bad, but something about this man felt different. Honest, quiet, sincere. Eventually, fatigue overtook her. She leaned her head against the wall and closed her eyes, not meaning to fall asleep. But she did. Daniel finished tightening the new belt he had replaced using parts from an old donor car. It wasn't perfect, but it would run just fine until she could get a permanent fix. When he stepped into the office, he saw Emily asleep in the chair, head tilted to the side, soft strands of hair falling over her face. She looked peaceful but strained, as if even her dreams carried weight. He didn't want to wake her, but she needed to know the car was ready. "Miss Carter," he said softly. Her eyes fluttered open. She blinked a few times, confused, then quickly straightened. "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's okay." Daniel smiled. "Your car's ready." She stared at him, surprised. "Already? How much do I owe you?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Nothing." Emily blinked. "Nothing. But you just spent an hour fixing my..." "It was a simple fix," he lied. "And it was raining. I'm not charging you for that. Just drive carefully." She opened her purse and tried to hand him some cash. "Please, at least take." Daniel stepped back. "I don't take money like that. If I say it's free, it's free." Emily's lips parted. No one refused her money. No one. But this man did. She studied him again. Grease-covered hands, kind eyes, the tired slump in his shoulders. There was something righteous about him. Something that made her feel strangely small and humbled. She nodded slowly, closing her purse. "Thank you, truly." He shrugged as if it were nothing. "Just doing what I can." As she turned to leave, she hesitated at the door, then looked back at him. "You know, I don't usually say this, but you're a good man, Daniel." He chuckled lightly. "My daughter thinks so." "You have a daughter?" "Yeah, Lily. 8 years old, smart as a whip, stubborn as her mother." Emily felt warmth bloom in her chest. "She's lucky to have you." Daniel looked down, a shadow crossing his face. "I hope so." Emily didn't know what he meant by that, or why a man like him would doubt himself, but she didn't cry. Instead, she walked out into the fading rain, got into her SUV, and rolled down the window. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night." She drove away. He lowered the garage door, shut the lights, and finally headed home, sore and exhausted. The next morning came early. Daniel woke at 6:30 a.m. to Lily shaking him awake, her little ponytail bouncing with excitement. "Daddy, you promised pancakes," he groaned, smiling despite his fatigue. "I remember. Just give me 5 minutes." She giggled. "You always say 5 minutes." But he got up anyway, because for her, he always did. By 7:30 a.m., he had dropped her at school and was rushing across town to the courthouse. Today was the hearing that had consumed his life for months, the case where he was fighting for full custody after his ex-wife's parents tried to take Lily away, claiming he was financially unstable and unfit. He wasn't perfect, but he loved Lily more than anything. He arrived at the courthouse breathless, documents clutched in hand. The hallway outside courtroom 3B buzzed with voices. Lawyers shuffled papers. Officers stood guard. When the bailiff called his case, Daniel stepped forward, heart pounding. Case 14B, Hale versus the Carver family. He scanned the courtroom. His ex-wife's parents glared at him from the right side, their expensive suits and polished shoes a harsh contrast to his worn jacket. Daniel swallowed hard and turned toward the judge's bench. And froze. Sitting there, in a crisp black robe, her hair perfectly brushed, posture straight and commanding, was Emily Carter, the woman from last night. The woman whose car he had fixed for free. Emily's eyes widened the moment she saw him. A flicker of recognition flashed across her face. Surprise, understanding, then something unreadable. Daniel felt his stomach drop. She was the judge for his custody case. Emily inhaled slowly, gathering herself. The courtroom fell silent. Daniel gripped the edge of the table, heart racing. Last night, she had been a stranded woman in need of help. Today, she held his fate, and his daughter's, in her hands. And Emily Carter, judge of the Superior Court, looked down at him with an expression that said she remembered every detail of their late-night encounter. And that the next hour of his life was about to change everything.